So Mr. Darwin started his book, this book here, The Origin of Species, a book which laid out the case for natural selection by spending an entire chapter on something else, something we now call artificial selection, what Darwin called variation under domestication. What's that all about, and why did he do it? Well, the reason he did it is because he saw parallels between artificial and natural selection, and he thought that once you kind of grasp artificial selection and the parallels to natural selection, you'd be much more likely to buy into natural selection. And so what is artificial selection? What is this thing called variation under domestication? Well, it's what breeders do. And we all have, like dog breeders, horse breeders, any kind of breeders. It's what they do. And we all have an idea how breeders work. My first year teaching here at OSU OKC, way back in 2000, fall of 2000, that very first semester, one of my students was a dog breeder. And I have to be careful here in case she ever hears this video, but she had an interesting type of dog, a certain breed with a kind of a long name, as I recall. Interesting name, interesting breed, and she had, I guess, quite a number of these, and she was attempting to move the breed in some direction. I forget what, but let's say it was to be a breed with pointier ears. Alright, so she had a database of all the dogs of this breed in surrounding states, and every once in a while she would pack up her dog and take it, say, to Arkansas and have it bred, have, say, her female dog bred with an Arkansas dog of this particular variety, and bring it back, and her dog would make babies. Now, which dog did she carry to Arkansas? Well, if she was trying to get the breed to move in the direction of pointier ears, she probably looked around at all her dogs that she had and picked which one. The one with the pointiest ears, right? And she also, before she took off to Arkansas, she checked her database to find what? The pointiest ear dog that she could find in the database. And so those dogs bred. She brought hers back. Let's say her dog has 5 babies. What's her next move? If she wants to move this generation after generation to being more and more pointy ears. Well, she looks at, say, these 5 puppies, puppy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and she wants to continue this. Which one is she going to pick to continue on with? The one of those 5 that has the pointiest ears, right? And what is that pointy ear puppy going to get to do? Once it grows up, it's going to get to make babies, right? With another pointy-eared dog out there someplace. What about the other ones that don't have such pointy ears? What is she going to do with them? Well, she'll probably get them neutralized. They sell them as pets, but no babies. And so, what's this artificial selection about? It's all about who gets to make babies. And as we'll see, natural selection is all about who gets to make babies. Now, she has 5 puppies, let's say. They're all a little bit different. Some maybe have rounder ears, some have pointier ears. What creates that genetic variation among the babies? We already know. There's only 2 basic things that can cause that basic variation, that genetic variation between different offspring. And what is that? Well, we've studied both of these. They both happen to start with M. And what are they? Let's see. One source of genetic variation begins with M. What's that? Yes, I can hear you saying it. It is meiosis. Did you say that? Yeah. What do we say about meiosis and alleles? Meiosis thoroughly does what with alleles? Shuffles alleles. It shuffles alleles. And so that shuffling of alleles is why brothers and sisters are different. Meiosis occurring in both parents and so forth leads to genetic variation. And so there's another source of genetic variation. This is probably the most common one. I'm sure it's the most common one, thank goodness. It would be chaos if it wasn't. But what's the other source of genetic variation that we talked about? Something that creates, maybe possibly creates differences between siblings. Yes, mutations. Mutations. And so mutations don't just shuffle alleles. Mutations do what with alleles? Mutations actually change alleles, do they not? Yes, they do. And so what we're going to find when we study natural selection is natural selection also relies on genetic variation. Now, Darwin did not know about these two things. He had some other idea of what caused it. We know these, so we'll just think about these as sources of genetic variation. But Darwin knew that there's genetic variation among offspring. We'll talk about artificial selection, and so these are the sources that we now know cause that genetic variation, and so that is what provides different puppies, puppies with pointier or less pointy ears, for the breeder to select. And so that is how breeders have created all the different dog breeds. They they picked maybe some that were hairier, or they picked some that had that were bigger, or smaller, or this or that, and have selected over many generations, picking what they wanted, and gradually moving a breed in a certain direction. And so Clydesdale horses, where'd they come from? Breeders selected bigger over many generations. And they're also miniature horses. I mean, they're pretty small. And I call them ponies maybe, I don't know. But how did they get bred so small? Smaller, picking smaller. So we can now answer all the questions in your study guide question number 1 under the process of evolution. It says, number 1, Charles Darwin compared natural selection to artificial selection. So in artificial selection, who or what does the selecting? I think it's the breeder, right? I think it's the breeder. And in artificial selection, which individuals and traits are selected for? What does the breeder pick? By golly, the breeder picks whatever he or she wants, right? Picks whatever he or she wants. And so in artificial selection, which individuals and traits are selected against? Well, gee, whatever the breeder doesn't want, right? If the breeder wants pointier ears, the breeder selects pointy-ear babies and doesn't select the ones that are rounder, right? And so, what does it mean to be selected for or against? Ooh, this is a big parallel between artificial and natural selection. Here it is right here. It's all about who gets to do what? Who gets to make babies. If you're the lucky winner, so to speak, among the babies, you get to, among the puppies, among the offspring, you get to do what? You get to make babies. I guess that's good. If you're selected against, you don't get to make babies. And for example, if you're a racehorse and you want to get a chance to make very many babies, you had best do what in your career? You had best win a lot of races, right? And the breeder will select you, and you get to go to the pasture where all the mares are. And if you're a slow racehorse, or you washed out or something, you get your own pasture. Not as much fun. So it's all about who gets to make babies. And based on the genetic variation the breeder finds among the offspring. Now, why does this work? Well, we're going to stop this one right here and explore that in another little video. But what have we seen so far? Artificial selection, all about who gets to make babies. The breeder selects who gets to make babies based on what? What the breeder wants. And what is the breeder selecting from? He's selecting from, he or she is selecting from the variation among the offspring. The baby horses, the baby dogs, the baby whatever. All right, that's artificial selection.